Yesterday's resignation by Nationals Deputy Leader Bridget McKenzie leaves two immediate vacancies: her leadership job and her seat in Cabinet. In deals and counter deals, some want the Deputy's job, others, they want the Cabinet spot. And of course, there's news tonight about Barnaby Joyce and the move against the leader. Barnaby Joyce running now for the leadership shows that everything is up for grabs when the spill motion, as we're told, gets moved tomorrow. Joining me now for the latest out of Canberra, Sky News reporter Trudy McIntosh. Well, I tell you what, Trudy, it's always the way. Just before 6 o'clock, the world blows up. But the latest tonight came out of a tweet, didn't it, from Lou O'Brien's office indicating that he would be moving a motion. And of course, then Barnaby confirming there with our political editor, Andrew Clennell, that he's running.
Well, it's certainly on now tomorrow. The National Party will be meeting tomorrow morning for this special party room meeting to decide the leadership. Initially, this was just to decide the position to replace Bridget McKenzie, but this morning, Barnaby Joyce made this very clear, that if someone moved to spill the leadership of Michael McCormack, that he would be running for that position. And tonight, as you say, just a few minutes ago, he spoke to political editor Andrew Clennell, outlining that now he will be running for this. He didn't get into the process of who will be moving that motion, but it is believed to be Lou O'Brien. Have a listen to what he had to say.
Can you win? Do you think you have the numbers to win?
Well, I've informed Mr McCormack that I'll be standing against him. Really, that's up for the colleagues. You can't just sit back and say, you know, I wish things were better. I have respect for Mr McCormack. I think he does a good job. I think the National Party has to be on the balls of its toes as we face some of the most challenging times. And we have to speak with our own voice, and we have to drive agendas, because it's going to be an incredibly tough game for people in regional areas. They're going to be our focus. They were 100 years ago. They remain so today.
When did you speak to Mr McCormack?
This afternoon.
And Lou O'Brien, is he the one who'll move it?
Look, they'll be moved and seconded.
Some MPs are saying you might only get 5 or 6 votes. Do you think that's possible?
Well, look, I'm going to leave that up to the colleagues. I'm not going to start saying. I don't think anybody ever knows.
Now, what's interesting here, Trudy, is 21 votes in the National Party room. There's a combination of people who sit in there as Nationals, but also some Queensland LNP MPs who in Canberra sit inside the National Party room. This morning when he went on Breakfast TV, I thought that Barnaby Joyce was really putting a flag out there, a marker to see whether or not there was any interest in a spill motion. You wouldn't run if you didn't think you'd have a credible sort of showing. Clearly something's happened in the last few hours to make him think it's worth the risk. Now, he's not a young man either. He's not going to die wondering, and he desperately wants to be back inside the engine room of the coalition. But what have you heard about the likelihood of this attempt succeeding?
Well, our political editor Andrew Clennell was crunching the numbers all day inside the party room. It looks like the number they were saying is at around a maximum of around 9 was the soft level of support at the top, that he's got a hard level of support of around 5. In that interview he just did with Andrew Clennell, he's ended up saying that he will be running no matter the level of support. That say even if he only had 2 people that would be backing him in tomorrow, he's not going to back away from this challenge, that he won't die wondering. He is going to go and push for this tomorrow. It will be interesting to see the level of support if you do get up to around 9 people voting against Michael McCormack. Even though he would win, it would wound him going forward.
Yeah, look, and I maintain there is no way that Michael McCormack will be leading the Nationals at the next election. The setup, let's say David Littleproud had got the deputy's job. Darren Chester announced on Sky today he would not run. I think he was very much pitching, because Littleproud is already in Cabinet, very much pitching for the Cabinet position. But that was sort of a 2-part move to then be able to remove McCormack if he continues to prove as electorally unpopular before the next election, whether he is challenged or whether he decides to retire. That's to be seen in the future. But clearly, the party room now, once it's on, they mightn't have wanted to remove McCormack, but once it's on, I have to say anything could happen.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of moving pieces in terms of this, and as you say, the ambitions of so many members of this party room. Do they want to be leader? Do they want to be deputy leader? Would they like the cabinet position? You know, will they get the outer ministry position here? There's a lot of positions that are being jockeyed for, and you can imagine tonight in Canberra, people's phones going off, people at dinner all night trying to decide who's getting what position and who's in whose corner, Peter.
It's interesting, I was talking to a couple of Liberals this afternoon who were quite cranky that this was a great big distraction they didn't need. They felt that they'd put away the fire issue, that they were looking forward to getting back to Parliament and really kicking back into gear, complaining about the indulgence of the Nationals in this leadership talk. And I had to say to them, well, I think the Nationals would have something to say about the last 10 years of Liberal party room and leadership talk, so I think fair's fair here. What's the mood of the government more broadly? News poll wasn't good to them today.
No, well, the whole focus, though, today has really been on the National Party. And even tomorrow, while the National Party meeting will be held, there's also a Greens Party meeting. But the day tomorrow was meant to be about bushfire victims and paying tribute to so many people who've spent this summer fighting the bushfires that we've seen right up and down the East Coast and in South Australia. That will have to be largely overshadowed, you'd expect, tomorrow by this leadership rumblings in those two parties. So I think a lot of that focus will inevitably be on the Nationals again tomorrow. It's about whether, once they pick the leadership team, can they move forward, or is there still ongoing questions about this sports rorts saga? Labor certainly thinks they are. They're going to be pushing a Senate inquiry, so it's hard to see this dying down, even with a new leadership team.
Yeah, and just in relation to tomorrow, there are condolence motions all day. It will not be a parliamentary day as usual. We also have a new senator to be sworn in for the Liberal Party in relation to the state of South Australia. This person, tell me a little bit more about him, but he'll replace Corp, who was elected as a Liberal, as we know, and then went independent, started his own party. He has resigned and departed the building, as they say. What do we know about the new incumbent, Andrew McLaughlin?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about him, Peter. I think he's relatively unknown on the federal stage when it comes to this. He's coming in as a Liberal to replace Corp, as you say. You can't even imagine this getting much of a airtime tomorrow, because all the focus will be on the two leadership contests that are going on.
And where's Labor now on Angus Taylor? Because that had died away. It certainly felt to me it had died away over the Christmas break. But I noticed in comments made by Anthony Albanese and other Labor people in the last couple of days, they felt they had the scalp of Mackenzie and they were moving back on to Taylor.
You can imagine this is where Labor will want to continue going. The AFP still has that open investigation into the conduct around what happened with the City of Sydney Council. I think Labor will continue to try and push this issue for now. They may continue, though, on Bridget McKenzie for this week, but certainly people seem to indicate that Labor would like to see him go as well. So it sounds like Scott Morrison wants to stand by Angus Taylor. There hadn't been any move to get rid of him or anything prior to Christmas, you'd imagine. Unless the AFP finds a very significant finding against Angus Taylor, the Prime Minister will be reluctant to move against him.
Yeah, and you often get quoted, don't you, when people resign from politics, family reasons, spend more time with their young family, etc. We've heard it all. But I think there was a lot of authenticity in comments today by Richard Di Natale announcing his immediate resignation from the party's leadership. And of course, he'll stand down also from the Parliament. He'll leave the Senate, he says, by the middle of the year when his replacement is found from the Greens membership. Tell me here, now, people are talking about Adam Bandt. It would be interesting to have the leader in the lower house and every other member of his team. I think, what's there, nine or 10 of them in the Senate? 9, I think it is, Greens in the Senate. So he would be a long way removed from his colleagues that he's supposed to lead. How's that going to work? And is he the front runner?
Yeah, he certainly appears to be the front runner for now. It looks like this has been stitched up as Adam Bandt will be the leader and then Larissa Waters acting as the deputy. I would note that there has been a little bit of unrest today publicly. Maureen Faruqi, the Greens senator from New South Wales, said publicly that she believes this should be a grassroots process, that the Greens, they are moving towards a ballot for the leadership that would be using grassroots membership, but that's later in the year. So interesting about the timing of this, whether this was done to preempt that, because if you do have a sort of grassroots ballot, it's not as easy to control those numbers. There's only 10 Greens, as you say, in federal parliament. It's much easier there for Richard Di Natale, if he'd like to help kind of choose his successor when it comes to the Greens party.
It's almost like every time there's a potential change of leadership, there's a lot of machinations to keep Sarah Hanson-Young out, isn't there? A lot of secret deals and prior notice.
Yeah, she's previously put her hand up for it, but today, behind the scenes, you were hearing that she didn't even have any support to become deputy leader. So, you know, it doesn't look like she's in any contention when it comes to this. That's not to say that she wouldn't put her hand up tomorrow, but if you knew you only had your own vote, maybe it's probably not the best idea to put your hand up.
Well, it didn't stop Julie Bishop, but anyway, I'll have to leave that right there. Trudy, thanks for your time tonight, and we'll obviously stay across all of this. There'll be plenty of calls and corridor gossip tonight, and we'll come back with a result tomorrow night.